Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd. Sorry for the delay after they announced the start. I had forgotten to start recording, which is important because we've already had several people ask that we send links to the recorded version because they won't be able to be here, because I screwed up and didn't send the email out until yesterday saying what was the topics for today's virtual user group meeting, which we affectionately call the water cooler. Normally those emails go out on the Thursday before, but I was in Chicago and therefore I was confused. Today we are talking about what's new in version 16, which is not out and is not coming out right away. However, you will have the opportunity to be a beta tester if you'd like. I'll talk more about that when I get to that topic. And Mary Jo is going to talk about using find and replace in PracticeMaster to do all sorts of neat things. But before we get started with that, I will say that you have something that looks a little bit like this over on the right-hand side of your screen. And it's important to understand how it works. There is a box that juts off to the left of a bigger box, and that little box that juts off to the left has some icons in it. The one on the very top looks like arrows that point to the right. When you click that button with the arrows that point to the right, it will push this big box out of the way, and the little box will still be there right on the side of your screen where it's out of the way, and the arrows pointing to the right will turn into arrows pointing to the left. And you guessed it, if you push the arrows while they're pointing to the left, it brings this big box back onto your screen. So you can use this button with the arrows pointing to the right to get it out of the way, and the button with the arrows pointing to the left to get it back. Why would you want to get it back? Because you're shy. If you are not shy, you're going to click this button if you have a question. It looks like a hand with an up arrow in front of it, and it is, yes, you guessed it, raising your hand. Once you ask to be acknowledged, at the point where we break for questions, we will acknowledge you. And when we do so, we will have turned on your microphone so that you can ask your question. We'll leave your microphone on until we get the question answered and make sure that we've answered all of your question. And then we'll mute you again so that you can continue eating your Doritos or Fritos. If you are shy or perhaps don't want to stop eating your Doritos or Fritos, you can type your question down here in the questions section. Type it right here where it says enter a question for staff. We will see that. We will answer it. And you can also, communicate back and forth with us if we don't quite answer your question there. It just takes a little longer to acknowledge that. So here's raising your hand, here's entering a question, here's getting rid of the big box, and inversely bringing the big box back in order to ask a question. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I am going to click here, and I am going to shut up while Mary Jo tells us all about find and replace in PracticeMaster.
Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit today about what find and replace is in PracticeMaster. We have a very cool feature here that whenever you are in any of our list tabs, whether it's on the client list tab, whether you're on the calendar list tab when you have a whole list of items here, whether you are on the notes or the documents or emails, fees, any of those tabs that we have that has a list view, we can do what we call a find and replace. And if you look over here on our quick clicks bar, we've got this find and replace bar. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is if I'll give you a couple examples and show you how this would work. Let's say I'm in the client tab here, and I want to change the street value. Right now it says an ST, and I want to actually make that spell out street. I could do a find and a replace. And so now that I'm in the list tab, I come over here and I would just click on the find and replace. It's going to open up a little box here. I can search for my ST for street, and I can tell it that I want to replace it with the word street. And then I can either choose the current list that's out here, everybody that's on that list, or I can actually highlight the records. And again, you can just do this with like control, and I can select which records I want to change. I can do shift and do a block of them, or I can just go ahead and as long as I'm on this list, if I just say I want to do the current list, I can go ahead and change all of the records that are in this list. You can also do a filter first if you wanted to do all active clients or all of Mr. Jones' clients. You could do a filter and then you're on that filtered list, and then I could say I want to do that current list and change fields within there. So I choose which one I want to do, either the current list or the highlighted records, and then I can tell it which field I want to search in. I can do all fields and change anything that has an ST to street, which is not what I'd like to do in this case, or I can choose specific fields. And I can come in, it's going to give me a list of all the fields that are available. And they come, when you first open this list, they're all checked off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear them all, and I'm going to say I just want to look in the address 1, 2, or 3 fields, and say OK. And then I can also say that I want to match the case. If I wanted it to be just the ST, or if it was a capital ST, I can find whole words only. I can replace just the matching text, or I can replace the entire field contents. And I'll show you some more examples where we may use some of these other options. But for this case, I just want to replace the matching text. The first thing that I want to do is I want to find the records that have just ST in there. And so by clicking Find, it's going to go ahead and give me a list result down here at the bottom with that criteria highlighted. Now you can see when I come down here that the first couple here are what I do want to replace. I can see that it says Washington ST, 48th Street. But then you can see down here for Kelly White, she's got East in there, 22nd Avenue East. Well, I don't want to replace that ST. I just want to replace the ST for street. So I can, again, choose which records that I want to replace by hitting the Control key and selecting the records that I want to replace. So for this instance, this is a case where I do want to be picky and choose which ones are out there because there could be other values in that field. So now that I've selected, the correct streets that I want to replace, I can come in here and just say I want to replace all, and it's going to tell me I have 4 records that I want to do, and I want to say no because I don't want all 7. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that, and I'm going to just hit the individual replace. And when I replace those, it will go ahead and just do the selected records that I did and make the 4 replacements. So be careful when you come in here because you don't want to just go ahead and replace all, even though you've selected the records, because it will replace all 7 records. So I've now come in there, and you can see that those records are now with the street instead of ST. So that's a quick way to do something simple there. You could also do this maybe for state. Maybe you have fields that you're spelling out Michigan or Ohio, and you want to just have that be condensed down to OH or MI. You're getting everything consistent. You could go in and you could actually do a find and replace for the state field, and you could change Michigan to MI or Ohio to OH and do that. Or you could also, if you had O and somebody put in a small h instead of an uppercase H, you could come in there and you could do that kind of a change with the find and replace. The other thing that you could do that I think is kind of a neat thing is with the Documents tab. If you're doing document management and you're saving documents into PracticeMaster by folders, and you have like a correspondence folder, or you have documents that are in a correspondence folder out on your server, and you move that document or that folder to an archive file. And obviously that breaks the link here in PracticeMaster. If you come in here to click on that record, you no longer have that link because you've moved the document. So a quick way that you could come in and do the change would be, for this example, you can see that the assembled document name here is the C:\users demo documents, and then I've got my document name. Well, if I choose the first part of this, and I'm going to go to my documents all the way up here to the slash, and I copy that, and then I go back to my list file. Now I need to be on the list file for the documents. Or on the list screen. I don't want to be in the individual record. I can change the documents for this particular client by doing a find and replace. So if I come into Quick Clicks and go to my find and replace, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste that path that I had in there, hopefully. Maybe not. I have to type it in there. So C:\users /demo /documents. I want to replace with, well, I think I can leave the backslash, with C:\archive. Whoops, did I do, hold on. /archive. And this would just be the new document folder name that you have it in. I don't want to change the actual document name. I just want to change the path on how to get there. So the document name that follows this is going to stay the same. I'm going to say that I want to do it for the current list. I'm going to do it for a specific field. And I'm going to, again, clear all. I'm going to go to the assembled document name because that's the field that I want to change. And I'm going to say OK. And then in this case, I want to replace only the matching text because I don't want to replace anything after this /. I just want to replace the name of the folder that it's in front of the /. And so I can go ahead and I can replace that, and it will go through and it will change all of my document names to /archive/demo/document, and then whatever the document name is. So then that link is correct again. This is just in a client view. I could actually go out and I could change this on a whole system level. I can come up to my file, I can go up to open, and I can view my document management, my fee, my client level, any of those things right from here. And I can change documents in this case too for multiple clients. So if I had a certain date range of documents or a certain group of list documents that have to apply to many clients, I could come in here and do it from this list view as well. You can see the find and replace is available there too. One other thing that I get a lot is people asking, how can I change the rate for WIP transactions? And we usually always will refer you to go do the change WIP transactions in Tabs, and you can replace whatever that new rate on certain fee entries for that client. And you can do it over there, and that's fine. But you could also come over here in PracticeMaster, and you could change fees for a client, for an attorney. If you've got several different clients that are have the primary timekeeper as #1, and he changed his rate for this particular, from a certain date forward or whatever, you can come in here and you can pick and choose which ones that you want to change and find and replace. If you wanted to do for just one client, maybe the rate is incorrect, or you want to change for just one attorney on this particular case, I can come in and do a find and replace in the fee file. And I can say I want to change all rates that are $100 to $200. I can say I want to do certain highlighted records. I can pick and choose, or I can say I want to do for specific fields. I'm going to do it for this whole list, so anybody in this client, any fee records that are associated with this client that have $100, I want to up it to $200. I can do the specific field, and I can, again, clear all, and I can tell it that I just want the rate to change. Say OK. I'm going to replace the matching text, and I'm going to go ahead and replace. And it's going to find it first, so it's going to show me all my instances here. And I've got 3. I'm going to replace it, and then all of my fee rates have just changed for the, this client for these records. And again, I could do replace, or I can replace all, depending on what you want to do there. You can pick and choose. And now if you look at my list out here, you can see all of the cases that had $100 are now $200. So it's just a really quick way that you can go in and you can be very specific. You can sort this list by timekeeper and then highlight the timekeeper that you want to change, and you can do a quick fee rate change right there. So that's just a couple of ways that you can use find and replace to make some quick and easy changes in PracticeMaster. Do you have any questions or anything?
Going once. Going twice. Nope, no questions.
Okay.
So Mary Jo, you keep an eye on those questions, and if any pop up, you can interrupt me and answer them. And I am going to talk about, Mary Jo's talking about the now, I'm going to talk about the not now, the future. Version 16 is in alpha testing right now. That means they have it in STI in Lincoln Land in Lincoln, Nebraska, and have been diligently testing it. It will go into beta testing soon. That means that people who have signed up to be beta testers can get a copy of it that is production ready. I will say that in my years, my 25 years of dealing with software technology, they have always put out beta versions that are more solid than the final release copies of products like Time Matters and Amicus. very, very solid betas. They have never, ever lost data in a beta test. But it's a good way for you to get your hands on these new features early and to even have a say in how those features might be tweaked a little bit before the product's released. Because the more people that we have in beta, the quicker the product can come out. And the more people we have in beta, the more neat suggestions we get for, well, this could work better this way. Or, this particular new feature doesn't work for me because of this. And sometimes those changes are incorporated before the product's released in final release form. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they come out in a subsequent release after. I am not here to tell you in great detail what each of these new features is. When we do get into beta, or especially once we get out of beta and into final release, we will probably cover some of these features in great detail at individual water cooler events. But my idea, or my purpose here, is instead to give you kind of a feel for what's changing. One huge change in version 16 over all prior versions is the introduction of what we would call a contact management format. Right now, in PracticeMaster, you have clients and you have related parties. And if you have a client that you also want to be in your related parties list, which most people want their clients also in their related parties list simply because that's like a phone book to them, you need to put them in twice. And all of a sudden you have this disconnect between clients and related parties. If you change the client's address right now in the client file, you need to remember to go change it in the related parties file. Sometimes you have clients that are related parties. Sometimes you just want them in both files for convenience. Sometimes you have instances where somebody starts as a related party. Maybe they were the accountant on a certain case that you handled, and now they've come to you to do their divorce. Now you've got them in two places. Well, version 16 fixes all that. In version 16, first off, we've renamed the related parties file to the contact file because that is much more understandable. A lot of people will ask us, what is a related party? Well, it's just a contact. It's somebody that you come in contact with. And now, when you put a client into the system, it will also be a contact at the same time. So you can have somebody that starts out as a contact, becomes a client, maybe that case is settled or finished, and they're still in the system as a contact, and will always be in the system as contact. So if you then go out to lunch with the guy a year later, you can take a note about that in his contact record, even though he doesn't have an active case. And if 2 years from now he hires you to handle another case, he's still in the contact list. You don't need to worry about the correlation between the two. Contacts in the new version 16 will be able to have journal records tied to them and calendar records tied to them. When you look at a case in PracticeMaster now, you can see the calendar tab, you can see the notes and email tabs. If you go to the related parties tab right now in PracticeMaster, you don't have those calendar and notes and email tabs, but you will in version 16. That means when somebody is just someone you met on the street, or you is an attorney for several cases that you're handling and he's on the other side, you can take notes about him as a contact. You can tag emails to him as a contact, even though he's not a client. You can calendar things specifically for him and have them show up in his record. Then years later, when he happens to become a client, those notes are going to travel with him from one place to the other. Very important, very significant, and the changes as you get into the system will become the reasons for doing this will become more obvious. It's hard to think of on a higher level. And I am going to move on now to another favorite, which is emailing statements. Right now in Tabs, if you have version 15, I believe 1, 2, or 3, I think this started in maybe in version 15 too, when you go to generate statements on the Options tab, you now have this PDFs as individual statements. This is actually here because it's a precursor to what is happening in version 16. In version 16, you will be able to identify the bill to information, and you'll be able to identify whether a person receives a mailed statement, an emailed statement, or both. And when emailed statements are what's sent, you can define custom email templates that are used, just kind of like you have templates and statement layouts for the bills themselves. You can also design custom cover letters, if you will, for your emailed statements. And once those bills are printed in final form, they get thrown over into an email queue where you get to review them, make sure everything's the way you want it, and then basically send those emails all at once. So if anybody's been billed by us, they know that I email the statements, but I do that by printing these individual PDFs and then creating my own emails and attaching those PDFs. In version 16, that entire process will be automated. We do have a couple simple things, enhanced client funds capabilities. Right now, you can take credit cards in the trust accounting system, but not for client funds payments and tabs. You can do it for regular payments and tabs, but not client funds payments. In version 16, you will be able to do that. Right now, if you're using the client funds feature in tabs, it doesn't pass through to the general ledger. It should, it doesn't. In version 16, it will. We've added a new client inactivity report to tabs. Those who are familiar with this in PracticeMaster, it is basically the same thing ported over to the tabs side. It's a report that can show you very quickly all clients that have had no activity in a specific time frame, and you can specify different types of inactivity, no fees, no payments, no statements, all of those, whatever it is that you'd like. Outlook integration is simply but hugely improved. Basically, in version 15.3 and all versions prior, where you have Outlook integration, it's an automatic push from PracticeMaster. If you change a contact, add a contact, change a task or an event, or add a task or event, it automatically pushes through to Outlook. Very cool. Problem is, it doesn't automatically come back. Those of you who are dealing with Outlook synchronization know that it's really cool that it automatically goes there, but if you then make a change to that entry in Outlook, or make a change out in the field in your BlackBerry or your iPhone or your Palm, which then gets synced to Outlook, it has to manually be pulled back to PracticeMaster. Now, it's very simple. You run a routine and it happens, but it's something that has to be done manually. In version 16, this changes, and the integration both from PracticeMaster to Outlook and from Outlook back to PracticeMaster are both automatic. What that means is that if you're out in the field and the judge says, are you available next Tuesday at 9, and you make an entry in your phone to say, I have an appointment now, a pretrial or whatever, a pretrial hearing at 9 o'clock next Tuesday in Judge Smith's chambers, that will automatically show up in your PracticeMaster once you sync that phone with Outlook. Now, some of you that are syncing phones with Outlook have what we call over-the-air syncing, meaning that it happens automatically. What this will then do is provide a totally seamless integration between your phone and PracticeMaster, so that those entries within a matter of minutes will be back into PracticeMaster. Another thing with the integration, if you are using Exchange and you are in a large firm, you know that in order for you to integrate between PracticeMaster and Outlook, you have to give all rights to all calendars to all users, or else PracticeMaster can't talk to Exchange properly. If you're using the CSV version, the client-server version, that will change. They've developed a technology that lets the Tabs and PracticeMaster server communicate directly with the Exchange server through a password-protected administrative level account that we set up, and therefore you no longer have to give all users permission to all other users' calendars in order for people to be able to schedule on anybody's calendar. So that's huge. If that's an issue for you now, that will go away. Also, in the client-server version, there are a couple other things that are new and specific to client-server. There is now a way to say that we are going to log everybody off in 10 minutes, so please log off, and then those people that don't log out of PracticeMaster, for instance, will be safely logged out of PracticeMaster. What that means is it won't be like resetting the user to get them out of PracticeMaster. It'll be more like closing them down, and if they happen to have a fee entry that wasn't saved, they'd lose only that entry. So if any of you have, in a large firm or even in a small firm, have tried to make PracticeMaster changes at noon, and no matter how many times you send emails saying at noon we're going to make changes to PracticeMaster so we need everybody out, you know that not everybody gets out, and if you're doing it at noon, You also know that by the time you get around to getting everybody out, they're not at their desks anymore. They're all at lunch. So you end up running around from computer to computer logging people out. This has now been automated. This is a client-server version feature. Also, filtering, which is in PracticeMaster, the ability to, in the list, let's say for clients, create filters that do things like show Michael Anderson's active cases or Mr. Jensen's active cases. As you may know, if you've tried to use this on a network with a lot of data, and maybe the network isn't as fast as it should be or could be, this filtering can get very slow. In the client-server version, it's up to 30 times faster simply because the filtering will be done at the server and only the results will be pushed down. And last, nope, that's it. I guess the other is the Exchange connector. There have been changes to accounts payable. We now have the ability to have a memo field on each invoice, print on the check. We've improved the Dropbox. Now has toolbars in it so that you can just click on an item and click the email tab, for instance, email button, and it'll automatically email that. You don't have to drag it into an email. The dialer's been improved so that even if you're not using the dialer to actually physically place a call on your phone system, you can still use it to bring up the phone number and start a timer record, which is one thing that a lot of people would like to do. Backup and restore has been optimized in the non-CSV version to allow for larger data sets. We have some clients that have huge data sets because they're journaling all their emails into PracticeMaster, and those emails have attachments. And they've gotten to the point where the backup in PracticeMaster won't work anymore because the data sets are too big. We've changed the way we do that, and that shouldn't be an issue anymore. And last but not least is the new workflows feature. Workflows are a way to automatically have certain things trigger other things to automatically start. For example, maybe when you save a new client, you want to automatically generate a thank you letter through document assembly. Maybe you want to open a pre-filled calendar record to follow up on that new client, make sure that the case has been set up properly. Maybe you want to send an email to the billing clerk when a new client's added. All of these things can be programmed now using the workflows feature so that when that new client record is added, it can create a letter, it can docket follow-up, it can send an email to the billing clerk. Maybe if you change a certain field, a certain attorney needs to know. Maybe if you add a record to the medical services provider database in the workers' comp system, maybe the person who tracks medical records or requests them needs to be alerted to do that. These are all things that can be programmed using workflows. Very, very powerful, very, very sophisticated. I couldn't begin to describe their power in the couple minutes that I'm taking to describe them. This is one of those things that is going to actually take PracticeMaster a step further in allowing you to build infrastructure around your practice management system. Right now, document assembly is a good example of that. You can standardize your documents, and those documents can automatically create fee entries and create ticklers. For instance, when you request those medicals, you can automatically docket 30 days to make sure you got them back. This takes that a whole new level, takes it to a whole new level as far as being able to build knowledge, build infrastructure into the practice management system. So that's a very concise and very brief introduction to the features that are coming out in version 16 of PracticeMaster and Tabs 3. As we get closer to beta being released, we will be looking for people to be beta testers. If you have any interest in becoming a beta tester, all you need to do is send an email to beta, B-E-T-A, at attorneycomputersystems.com, or to me, or call, or just find some way to let us know. And as soon as we get that, we'll add you to the list of people that we think should be potential betas, and we'll let STI know about that, and they'll get you into the beta pool. Any questions, Mary Jo?
No questions, Paul.
Okay. Any lawyer jokes, Mary Jo?
Not me.
You don't see any there? Okay. We are giving a webinar tomorrow. Speaking of building infrastructure around a practice management system, I am giving a webinar tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on document assembly and how to code documents. Now, I'm not going to teach you exactly how to code documents because that's a topic that takes a little more than a half an hour, But I'm going to give you an idea of what it's like and what power you have available to you and what logic and how you can actually pull all this data out of PracticeMaster and use it to request medicals or create complaints or create captions or create letters to the client or letters to the opposing counsel. Very sophisticated document assembly capabilities are built into PracticeMaster. It's probably one of the most underutilized, and it is huge from that perspective of being able to build infrastructure around practice management. So please, if you'd like, just join us. If you don't have the registration information, shoot me a quick email, paul.purdue, like the school, not the chicken, that's P-U-R-D-U-E, paul.purdue@Attorney Computer Systems, and I can turn around an email that gives you registration information. It's filling up quickly, so if you do want to attend, let me know and we'll get you registered. And if there are no further questions, we will conclude our May 2010 water cooler virtual user group meeting. Everybody have a good afternoon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.